And to that end, like I mentioned before, this transmedia model of the business these days is really brilliant. And it's because it brings in like all aspects of where the industry is currently and where it's going in the future. And it also looks at it from a business perspective, financially, in the most intelligent way that I've seen. I'm not the de facto, oracle to talk on that, but it makes a lot more sense than the way people approach things currently, because usually they'll write a script, you sell it, and it's a one and done, so to speak. Or maybe you're fortunate and the movie does really well or the series does really well, but then you're back on that. Well, what's your next thing going to be, right? Transmedia doesn't do that. You have that one super story, right? And then you have kind of like your soapbox, your message that is the through line with everything that comes out of your super story. And then that story is told over a variety of media, right? And it's not the same story. So you can explore characters, you can explore locations, you do it via podcasts, maybe a guided tour, maybe apps that further take the story down another path that the movie or the television series or the documentary or whatever it may be wasn't able to fully explain because of the parameters of that part of the story. And then you take something like that, you flesh all that out, you take something like that to an investor. Now you're not just a writer or a director or an actor or an artist or a Hollywood type coming to ask someone to invest in your movie, singular product. And by the way, most movies are losing financial propositions. And there are a number of reasons for that, right? A number of reasons for that. And the least of which has to do with your talent or your skill set. But it does have to do with your skill set in the arena of business. So now if you come to someone with a transmedia model and you show them what you've got and you explain to it how you're going to, distribute this and how it's going to be rolled out and what the plan is for it, and then you have the numbers to back up the financial aspect of what you're asking for and what the return on that investment would be, now you're talking dollars and cents. Now you're talking studios are like, oh, okay, now you've got the studio person's full attention. You've got the network person's full attention. You've got the investment banker's full attention, right? And this stuff never gets talked about. Well, I won't say never, that's not right, but it doesn't get talked about often enough, and certainly not in a way that would be more helpful to people, because if you're going to create something, you're going to go to all that effort. You want it to be seen. Houston Howard talks about the phenomena of art. Like, if no one really experiences it, then what was it? And forgive me, I'm butchering it, but you want it to be seen. So you have to have a distribution model. And then beyond that, you have to have a back end. There's a sale. There's the first sale in business. You have your sale. And most sales are either break even, and many times it's a loss leader. So it costs me, $5 to make my widget, and I'm selling it to you for $3, so I'm losing on it, right? But what I've done is I've gained a customer. And it's not in the first sale you make your money. You make your money on every subsequent sale on the back end, as they say. And that's taken into place. That's taken into consideration in the transmedia model, which, it's brilliant. It's not that it hasn't been before, but it's smart. It's really smart.
If you were going to take a movie like Forrest Gump,
yes,
and apply a transmedia model to it, how would you do it?
So Forrest Gump, right?
A movie I love.
Great movie.
Yeah.
Heartstring movie, right? I didn't write it, but you look at it, everyone says life's like a box of chocolates. Let's just say that's the kind of the message, the thematic, the soapbox of it, right? And that the broader super story is that no matter what the obstacle is in your life, right, it doesn't have to be the defining aspect of your life. Okay, and so you could spin that message off in a number of ways. You could take that message and say, like, Forrest was mentally challenged, right? So you could do a documentary about people like Forrest, right? There's one thing right there. You could create a podcast about the town, I forget what it was in Alabama, I forget right now.
Right.
You could do the podcast about that town and the various locations in that town. Interesting. You're not talking about Forrest Gump, you're not talking about Forrest, right? Something Bow, Alabama just came to me.
Okay.
It'll come. But anyway, that's another thing. You could create a board game about the invention of the brace that Forrest wore as a child. This is the transmedia model. Incidentally, the kids of today, and that's the marketplace, right? Those are the people who go and see stuff. They don't even watch television. They don't know what television really is for all intents and purposes. They get as starstruck by a YouTube character, channel, creator, whatever, as we did, looking at, oh my God, it's who did you go, oh my God, over?
Well, I wanted to be Brooke Shields
Brooke
when I was a little
Shields.
girl, and I would
Perfect.
look at all the teen magazines and go, I want to be her.
Absolutely, right, exactly. That doesn't happen anymore today. They go nuts over the YouTube thing. And everything's in smaller, kind of bite-sized content is the buzzword. I kind of hate that word, but we'll just go with it.
We might have to bleep that out, too.
That's the contrarian in me. But Jeffrey Katzenberg and his partner, oh God, I forgot who it is right now. They've created a new company, and they've invested a lot of money into it, and it's all videos that are 5 minutes and less, or 6 minutes and less. Interesting, right? So that's a whole other transmedia model you could take. Little 5-6 minute stories. It's not the whole story. Right. It's just parts of it that further enrich it. Because what you want to do is you want to build a brand, a franchise with raving fans, right? You want to build something, you want to create something along the lines of what George Lucas has done with Star Wars, J.K. Rowling did with Harry Potter, what Steve Jobs did with Apple. For God's sake, is there really anything that magnificent about Apple computers? Not really, no.
Well, the two Steves were interesting in their own right. So I think people wanted to know about them as well.
Oh, Wozniak and Jobs?
Yeah.
Right, that dynamic, right.
Yeah, they were an interesting
duo. But did that have anything to do with the nuts and bolts of that computer? Not really, no, exactly.
But it made the company more interesting, But
right.
But do you think, and I hate to, I just want to challenge this idea for a little
Please
bit.
do.
It's great to think about building an audience.
Yeah.
Is it really that easy now, when we're shooting this, 2019? Back when, YouTube was starting, was it 2005 or whatever?
Yes. Right.
So, okay, that was one time, but it's gotten much, it's just a different animal now. How easy is it to really build an audience?
Well, nothing's easy. Nothing's easy, right? And nothing worthwhile is easy at all. If it were, everyone would be doing it. However, at our disposal are any number of ways to build an audience that were not available before. It's kind of mind-blowing that, with your smartphone, with your laptop, you can start to build a fan base. You can start to capture email addresses. You can start to create content. You can start to, there's another way, you could create a blog. That's another thing. These all are ways of reaching out, telling your story and gathering the information and gathering fans' interest in your project, right? Because, you write this incredible, most talented, most beautifully written thing in the world, right? Or the most unbelievably acted piece of work that had ever been done. If there's not an audience for it, no studio or network is going to invest in it. Because, right, they want a return on their investment.
Well, if we took Forrest Gump,
sure,
and that was 94, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I was like 4 at that time, maybe
really?
5.
Oh, okay.
100 years old.
I was 2.
I don't look bad for over 500,
no, you
right?
Don't. No.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I think the prehistoric years were good to you.
Thank you.
But if we took Forrest Gump in today's landscape,
yeah,
it probably wouldn't have had the same appeal because there's so many things competing. At that time in '94, there was Nirvana and whatever, I don't know what month Forrest Gump came out, but there was the grunge movement. There were different things, but it wasn't we weren't competing for so many things. Yeah, there were video
True.
games, but it
True.
wasn't
No.
on the level it is
You
now.
didn't have that many things vying for your attention.
Sure.
That's right. And we didn't have these little addiction devices.
Right.
By the way, side note, we're all addicts.
We are. I go through, I see people of all walks of life, homeless, whatever, with cell phones.
Their
and
head
they
bent
are
over into it, yeah.
it was interesting. I saw a homeless woman asking a young girl for advice on how to fix her phone, and they were fixing it together. And I was like, wow, that's
How
really
cool,
fast.
yeah.
It was pretty cool. And the girl like knew like exactly what to do. And anyway, that's a side note, but that shows you where we are, you know. This was in a park and the woman's on a bench and she had a question and the girl helped her. And so anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
I love that.
So building an audience, it's catchy. How possible is it today?
Well, it's not catchy, it's imperative. It's imperative. And, you know, you can't compare 1994 to now. It's not fair.
Right.
Because
That's true.
Yeah, you just can't.
You can't.
But that's a common pushback whenever I talk about this. And this is, you know, this is nothing new. I didn't create this or anything. It's a common pushback. Oh, you know, name a director. Didn't have to do that, right? Yeah, you're right. They didn't. But that was then, and this is now.
That's true.
Right? And so if you continue to do things that worked back then, and you're doing those things now, and you're wondering why you're not getting a similar result, maybe change your approach. So, yeah, it's not catchy to build an audience. It's imperative to build an audience. Right. And everything should be done with that end in mind. But I also think that, I will say and, I think that looking at it in a financial aspect that makes sense to have people want to invest in your project, that's also imperative, you know, because otherwise you're looking at writing something one time, right? Acting in something one time and hoping against hope that it does well, right? Come on, lucky seven, right? Right? And in a large extent, that is kind of, we're all gambling in this industry, right? But doesn't it make more sense that instead of your gambling, that you, oh God, I hope this works out, right? I hope this works out. That you have a strategy in place that no matter what happens here, it's supported here, 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 here. And by the way, each one of those is a revenue stream.
So how does an actor incorporate Transmedia into their brand, which is they themselves?
So I'm clearly not looking at this like an actor, right? I mean, I've kind of stepped out of the acting realm. Now I'm really in the producer, writer, business realm, majorly, right? But they're all tied together. So I don't know how to, I don't know how to answer that question. I have certainly not come across any actors that are even thinking like this. I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
But I think it's smart to do it because I do know, I can say this, you know, there are lots of stories of actors who created their own vehicle. And Billy Bob Thornton created Sling Blade. We all know what happened there. And we on and on and on and on. I mean, even Howard Stern, for God's sake, not even an actor, but, you know, there's a guy who understands, you know, media, calls himself the king of all media, right? Smart. Makes that crazy movie, has basically his radio program. Now he's on, you know, call it a podcast. It's on Sirius Radio. Signed a deal for $500 million, right? So look at that. Think about that. How can you apply that to your thing? Because if you're going to sit back as an actor and wait for the audition, the role, that one that's going to make it for you, man, you know, you could get older than me, and it never happens. 500 years old. And it just makes more sense that you would put your energy and focus into something that makes sense in today's world, makes sense in today's entertainment world. You know, Jeff Katzenberg, head of DreamWorks, and his partner now are making 6-minute videos, and they've got a whole bunch of money behind it. And I guarantee you, Mr. Katzenberg doesn't invest money to lose it, right? So that's something I'd pay attention to. as an actor, as a writer, as a director, as a producer. What's going on there? Let me investigate that. Even if I have no idea what I'm doing, dive in. Think bigger, man. Think bigger.
Yeah, it was interesting to go into the library and see posters on the wall for like sign up for a YouTuber class to become a YouTuber. And then there's Jake Paul's book like featured. It's just fascinating because you're right. Gen Xers and whatever, we were used to looking at whoever our favorite celebrity was and thinking, how do I become like that? Or how do I, sort of get around that? But that was a different world. That was where there were, it was just, I don't want to use the word gatekeeper. It's been used
okay.
It's another word I want to bleep out. So
okay, all right.
but there were quote gatekeepers
Absolutely.
there, and now it's different. And now the it's not the gatekeepers. It's how do you compete with eyeballs? And so that is very difficult. That's a new dilemma. It's not now getting past and getting your headshot into the proverbial pizza box and trying to deliver it. I don't know if anybody ever really did that, but it was a great story.
Sounds great, yeah. Yeah.
Being the singing telegram. I'm really dating myself with that one, but and then oh hey, here's my headshot, that. But how do you compete with eyeballs? So great, yeah. Now the power is in everybody's hands
Right.
to create something,
Right.
but now you're competing with a gazillion things,
True. Yeah.
and that is the new dilemma.
Okay, so that is true, and that's also not completely accurate. So if we think about that, you're not creating with all of that, because you are not. If in business, if you try to be all things to everybody, you're dead in the water, right? Right. So you're talking about a brand, yourself, right, or your project, branding it. Okay. Well, then you have to figure out what your message is. Who's going to resonate with that? In the marketing world, they call that your avatar. Who is the person you're talking? You think about one person, like, oh, my person is Lisa, and Lisa is a 35-year-old mother of 2 girls, and she has a pit bull. She's very dainty. She likes to wear very light kind of what's the word? I can't think of the pastel colors. But yet she has this pit bull with an attitude, right? But see how specific I'm getting? So that's what we're going to. Instead of going, oh, I've got a gazillion eyeballs. Cool. But let's just bring it down. Let's bring that focus even tighter, right? Just like you do in a camera shot. You don't have the whole room we're in, right?
That's true.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that way now you've got this from this big unyieldy thing down to something that's much more manageable. So you can be more focused, more specific. Your choices are stronger. Your direction is clearer. I mean, that's how I would approach it. That's how, that would be the smarter way to approach it, I believe.
So
Maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry. Is the actor finding their one Lisa casting director? Is that who they're...
Man, I don't know that's, here, I'll tell you what, most actors will not tell you what they did to succeed, to get their success. Because I remember when I started out, man, if I could just talk to someone who knows this business and can tell me, how they got where they got, what they did, right? Not that I'm going to do exactly that, but it would give me a more clear picture and understand the workings, the dynamics at play, the maybe some of the personalities, maybe some of the relationships, right? That would be really helpful. What I found out is most people don't know how they got where they got. They just got lucky, right? They don't really think about it. I think that's fair to, most people don't think about, oh, I just did you hear the thing that you said earlier, keep your head down, just work hard and, be a good person. And like, okay, man, great. I was more interested in the strategy. Like, what is the strategy? How do you get from A to Z, right? Go back to the Steves with Apple. So what did he do to make his computer be more desirable than others, right? So he took it from all these eyeballs, and by the way, everyone was using the PC. It's still the dominant computer, right? Mm-hmm. The dominant one. Wow. I think Apple has 10% market share, maybe más o menos, I don't know. So what he did was he took his design and his salesmanship and started to craft and create a message, right? Think different, not think differently for the writers out there, which is grammatically correct, but think different. And then he had that infamous, 1984-esque commercial that he
Right.
did. But boy, did it move people, right? And then he had some successes and failures, and then ultimately when Apple really took off was when he turned it into the iMac and brought it out in, 5 fruity flavors, all the colors.
Right.
Ooh, I want the blue one. Ooh, I want the pink one, right? And everything changed,
Sure.
right? Everything changed. He created the iMac, that's what it was called, right? And then after that, I think came out the iPod, when people started making jokes, the iMac, the iPod, the iRack, the iRun, all those things, right? But he had a strategy in place because the iMac was supported and supported the iPod, and they were both going to be supported by iTunes. He had a framework in place,
Sure.
right? So he gets you with one thing, but then he's going to keep getting you on the back end with things. Boom, boom, boom. Take that same strategy and apply it to your career, wherever you are, whatever your discipline is, whatever your art is. I think that's just a smarter way to approach things, right? Clearly it's more business oriented, but again, it is called show business, right? And it would behoove all of us to think more about the business aspect of it. You certainly have to know your craft. You certainly have to have a strong viewpoint. And you certainly have to have your voice developed, but it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that business to it.